Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Josh.
And this is a Bad and Magic podcast, a podcast about games, life, and other things. And this is episode 8.
I am a big fan of Powers of Two, so I'm all in for episode 8.
Hooray! Now, last time you and I had to delay something that was probably quite timely culturally, and maybe it's become a bit stale, but let's talk about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
I want to talk about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie so badly for no other reason than I've never seen this happen before in my adult life.
What happened?
Well, all right, so I'll explain it then. So this was a long time ago because I was kind of following it when it first happened. They released a teaser trailer for the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and I guess the director and the visual arts director or whoever is involved with that process were trying to go with like an ultra realistic hedgehog looking like CGI version of the main character Sonic, and it just looked like just terrible. I mean, there's no good way to describe it.
You're right, and it completely went viral. I think that was in July. So back in July, this trailer that for this Sonic the Hedgehog movie came out that I didn't even know was coming out, and it absolutely went viral for the worst of reasons.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's horrifying. It's just this weird, sick parody. We'll obviously have to have a picture in the show notes because people won't believe us if they haven't seen it already.
Yeah, and I'm guessing most people have because it really did go viral, and everyone watched the trailer and like, you're right, that's terrible. So there was a lot of speculation as to why that happened or what it was going to be, but it just looked like, well, if you want to see a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, this is what you're going to have to put up with. And it really did feel like that. I don't know if it did to you, but it did to me. I'm like, well, crap, I don't want to have to look at that for 120 minutes.
Yeah, because, like I said, I've never seen anything like this happen in my adult life. So, well, I mean, it's already in post-production. They've spent millions of dollars on it. Like, this is just what we're going to get now, right?
Yeah, supposedly on a $90 million budget, they'd come out with this kind of what they do where you've got a real-world actors but one cartoon character, like a la like the Pikachu movie, Detective Pikachu, which I didn't see either. But there was an artistic decision made somewhere along the way to make Sonic be more of a, I don't know, a biologically accurate hedgehog.
Which was a terrible idea. I don't know how that really passed QC.
He's got beady little eyes, an accurate hedgehog nose, tapered legs, hedgehog claws, but then inexplicably everything else looks like the cartoon. You know, the pokey head and the red and white shoes and the blue fur.
Yeah, so we're going for ultra realistic except for all of the cartoony parts.
Yeah, it was horrific.
This is what blew my mind about this, is every time I looked at it, like it was a train wreck, right? You just couldn't stop watching it over and over. And there's a lot of people that work on these films. There's a lot of people involved with, CGI graphics and making characters like this. And not one of them at any point in this entire process, stopped and went, hey, guys, this looks terrible.
Okay, I'm with you. And I'm a big believer in Occam's razor. And yet, I think there's so much on both sides of the argument here that it could have gone either way, that I can't just explain what happened with Occam's razor. Occam's razor being the simplest explanation is usually correct. So I found this one news bit that says the animator notes that it was Paramount that pushed for the first design, which it was confident in. While it knew it would be controversial, it thought it would be generally accepted in that it was a good fit for the live-action elements of the movie. So I have a hard time believing that there was a whole room full of people who are like, yeah, this looks good. This is what we want.
I think this was a room full of people that are not aware of internet culture and not aware of how beloved Sonic the Hedgehog is as a character in internet culture.
Yeah, what were the target market were they shooting for doing it like this? Well, we don't want to alienate the non-Sonic fans for a Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Well, we don't want to alienate, the zoologists that know what a hedgehog looks like.
Yeah, we don't want people to be like, hey, this is an inaccurate-looking talking blue hedgehog.
Listen, Paramount, I was following you with the anime spiky hair and the blue fur, but the big eyes and the nose, that's it. I'm drawing the line. This is ridiculous. No hedgehog would be like this.
So I think, I know this isn't what they've said publicly, and I haven't seen this anywhere, but here's my speculation. I think there was a tyrannical director that had an artistic vision, like Ang Lee, you know, when he directed the first Hulk movie, and he says, "I've never read a single Hulk comic, but this is what I want to do."
Ugh. You gotta love those people.
I've never played a Sonic the Hedgehog game in my life, but this is what we're going to do with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
I've never played a Super Mario Brothers game, but how hard could a Super Mario Brothers movie be?
Right. Can we not learn this lesson? Let's make them realistic-looking plumbers. Everyone will love it.
Well, and that's kind of, we've heard that story before, the Occam's razor version, with just one person pushing past through all of the criticism and all of the objections, just like, nope, this is going to work and I'm going to make it happen. Like that was a big deal with the new Star Wars movies that we hate so much, that we talked about at length.
Yeah, and we're not going to stop talking about.
Absolutely not. But George Lucas, I've heard so many versions of everybody that worked on this movie, those 3 movies, where, nope, George Lucas was just dead set on having this terrible idea, and that's what we went with.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe that's why it's easy for us to imagine that kind of scenario. But this piece I found on a website, comicbook.com, that makes it sound like it was kind of a committee decision. Everyone agreed, hey, this is what we're going to do. And they released the trailer to the public. It went viral, and the fan reaction was a unified yuck.
Oh, no, it was more than a unified yuck. It was, I mean, people were sharpening their pitchforks and getting their torches out. They were ready to storm the Citadel on this one.
It worked on me, too. I went from not even knowing there was a Sonic the Hedgehog movie to caring about the fact that the studio messed it up.
It's like, I went from, I didn't know what it was, to being mad about it.
Right.
Well, what blew my mind, and I'm going to bring it back to like the possible explanations for what happened, was then, I guess the punchline to this whole thing that we haven't talked about yet. And I saw a thing on Reddit where some random guy, some random half-assed CGI artist, or some graphic designer, because there's millions of them on the internet, went into Photoshop and just took one screenshot from the trailer and like altered the Sonic in it with his very basic amateurish skills to be more like the cartoon or more like the video game character. And it was like really poorly done, and still a night and day difference of how much better it was over what Paramount, the professional movie studio, was putting out. And like the tagline was, "How hard was that?" And I remember that picture floating around and just blowing up like every forum, every Reddit post I saw.
Yeah, so this is back in July. Some fan just spends 10 minutes in Photoshop and comes up with something that the fans can get behind. Now, I saw this tweet that had gone out where, okay, so fast forward to November, and the studio had spent 4 months back in production, dumped somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 to $35 million, and we'll talk about the discrepancy in the cost in a minute, into reproducing the movie, and releases what arguably they should have done in the first place, and it goes over like sliced bread. Just everyone loves it, and it goes viral again because hooray, they fixed it, they listened to the fans, now we have the Sonic movie we all deserved. And
it looks, honestly, like you said, you have a cartoon character in your movie, just embrace it. Just make him look like what everybody wants him to look like, and it looks way better.
It does. I can't argue at all. It took the same trailer, like it was cut for cut, the exact same movie, and instead of me just sitting there being repulsed and confused, I'm like, hey, this movie looks kind of fun. I might go see this.
And this feeds into the conspiracy theory that my wife came up with. And her theory is that the Sonic that we're getting now, the one that everybody wants, is actually the original Sonic. And they had doctored up a fake, terrible trailer on purpose just to generate buzz about the movie.
All right. We're gonna let that sit because I don't want to just shoot that one down just yet. I saw a tweet where someone had said, if they'd released the fixed Sonic trailer first, we'd still hate it.
That's an interesting aspect of it too. So now we got to go back to the Occam's razor. Like, did they create the terrible thing, had the super negative reaction, and then fixed it? Or did they have this big, elaborate conspiracy theory of having two separate Sonic the Hedgehogs released in a time frame that made it look like the studio cared about what we thought in order, and at the same time generating a ton of buzz and publicity for this movie?
That's why I'm going with Occam's razor here, Josh. That's why I can't embrace Nicole's theory. It's a good theory, and I've seen a lot of support for it, that the studio did this on purpose. But everybody wants to go viral. Everybody wants to generate a bunch of buzz and publicity around their movie. But I don't think this was on purpose.
Right, and this, it goes with every conspiracy theory, and why every conspiracy theory gets shot down is because there's too many people involved. Whenever you have people in a group, somebody's not going to be able to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, exactly. Like the moon landing. Of all the thousands of people involved in doing this, you think someone would have come out by now if it was a conspiracy.
Well, you're assuming that they weren't all shot dead and buried in Area 51, but that's something besides the point. One other thing that I want to point out about this, like you said, there is a discrepancy between the $5 million or the $35 million, depending on what budget numbers you're looking at.
Right.
But the one question that I have for this is, so movie studios are loath to spend more money on stuff, especially when they're already in post-production. So, how overwhelmingly negative did the reaction have to be that the studio was like, hey, you know what? We need to spend another 30% of our budget fixing this.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's a big risk to spend $90 million on a movie that bombs, but it's an even bigger risk to spend $135 million or $125 million and have it bomb anyway.
No, but I mean, these movie studios must get really negative reactions all the time. It's
sure.
like, oh sir, we got 183 death threats about this movie trailer today. Oh, no big deal. Oh no, but we actually had 5 attempted murders on the way to work this morning. Oh, okay, well that breaks the noise threshold. That's pay more attention.
There's always going to be some fan out there going, actually Sonic's arms are flesh colored.
His shoes are supposed to be red. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Yeah, of course. Now back to the Occam's razor style thing. I mean, I have heard some explanations out there that made me buy in a little bit to the potential conspiracy theory, but ultimately I'm with you. It couldn't have happened. However, I did see one article on Forbes.com that I really loved that talked about how this was a good example of agile methodology in the business age. And I just took a training course on this, so it's fresh on my mind. But basically the idea is, instead of the traditional waterfall type of production of things, modern production methods have made it so that we can be a bit more agile in our production. You aren't just, all right, up front, we front load all of the creative effort, we produce the movie, and out at the end it comes. You don't gotta to fix the problem with Sonic, you don't have to go back and reshoot the scenes. You just got to spend a few more hours on some high-end servers with a couple of animators and you're done. And so it was just a little bit of a thing. They took the fans' feedback, they fixed the movie, and it was just a success story all around.
And that does make a lot of sense. I mean, if you had to reshoot the movie, that's one thing. But like you said, I mean, they had all the assets, right? All of the wire diagrams, or the way they do the CGI is there's always going to be the low-level first iteration where it's nothing but like a stick figure that's moving around on the screen.
Yeah, and we never get to see that.
Right. So, I mean, I guess you just change the skin that's over that. That makes sense.
And that's to say nothing of the fact that they got Jim Carrey to play the bad guy, who mostly nowadays just chooses scenery as guys like the Grinch, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to it, so I may go see it in theaters. Yeah,
I really like Jim Carrey back in his younger years when he's in movies in, the late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah, the Dumb and Dumber and Ace Ventura days.
Yes, the classic days, or The Mask. Yeah, I loved him, and he was just the physical comedy that he does is great. But now I feel like, so you know what got me off of Jim Carrey?
What's that?
Is that show that was on Netflix where it's Jerry Seinfeld having coffee with different comedians?
Yeah, comedians and cards having coffee.
Yeah, did you see the episode where he went and talked to Jim Carrey?
Yeah, where Jim Carrey's like crazy guy in an art studio.
Jim Carrey's like a freak show.
Yeah, he is. He's just political and jaded and angry.
And he has this 400-foot long canvas and I don't know, hundreds of tubes of oil paint lying around. I'm like, oh, dude, you're such a freak. This is why you don't want to ever meet your heroes or ever see them in real life.
Yeah, I saw this fascinating conversation with Kevin Smith about doing a movie project for Prince, where it just illustrates how detached from reality someone who's surrounded by yes men can be. When you're just wealthy and don't get anything you want.
Yeah, it gives you a weird perspective.
Yeah,
there's so many of those. Nicole and I have so many actors and actresses that we really like in the roles that they play in movies, and then we'll see like an interview with them, and it's like, oh, I wish I had never seen that because that person's actually an idiot.
Well, we'll add to that list Adam Sandler and Nick Cage.
Well, I'm going to throw this one out there. Eric Skarsgård, if you've never heard of him. He played Tarzan in that live-action Tarzan movie with Samuel L. Jackson. It was a terrible movie.
I'm guessing I might know him from another role, but I didn't see that one.
He's in True Blood as one of my favorite characters, Eric Northman, as a vampire. Yeah, still nothing. It's fine. You can look him up later. Eric Skarsgård has this... He has this amazing screen presence. Like, he's on screen and the camera just like you can't turn away. He's just like so Daniel intense and yeah, just really there. And I don't know how to describe it because I don't have the proper vocabulary. But then we saw an interview with him while he was getting ready for his role in Tarzan. And oh Ben, he's so dumb. He's so dumb. And it just ruined it for me.
Darn it. You can't unsee that kind of thing.
No, he forever ruined all of my characters that he plays that I like. In the back of my head, it's like, but he's kind of dumb.
Well, speaking of needless wealth, I want you to tell what has happened with Oko Thief of Crowns.
Oko. So I don't want to spend too much time because I don't know how many of our listeners even care about Magic the Gathering, but this has been fascinating to me. So the last time we talked we were on the point where we were pretty sure that Oko was going to get banned, and his price had started to drop in response. So the manufacturer, everybody was set that they were going to come out and they would say, okay, you can't play this card in tournaments anymore. And so where it had been a $60 card a couple of months ago, it had gone down to about $30 when we recorded the last episode.
Yeah.
2 days after that episode, Wizards of the Coast, the manufacturer, released the new ban and restricted announcement, and they said they pulled the trigger. This card, Oko Thief of Crowns, is now banned in tournament play in this format, the standard format. And I thought that was it. Like, oh, that's done. Like, his price is going to tank. Ben lost all of his money. I thought that was going to be the end of it. But now it's been 2 weeks, and I went back and looked, and Oko's price is actually increased to $50. So even after it was banned and like his use in tournaments has been limited now to fewer formats, it's worth more than it was right before that.
So I can't remember what my prediction was on the recording, but I do believe I made a prediction about this.
You did. You were going to buy and hold, expecting him to regain his value, but I don't think even you expected him to recoup.
I didn't think it would happen this fast, but I knew it would happen eventually.
I mean, that was crazy. And yeah, as of today, he is out of stock. Like, you can look on all the websites to try to find him, and he's just not there.
Yeah, wow. So cool.
So this has to be an effect of that he's so good that he's actually affecting other formats than the standard, right?
Yeah, yes, that's true. And there's also something else going on. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. But there's something like where people are speculating on it anyway, independent of the play, and usually the playability of cards tends to be pretty tightly associated with their value in Magic the Gathering, but every now and then there's cards that kind of defy that for other reasons.
There's no way that his value is that high for collectability, because he's still being printed. Like, I would agree with you if, like, oh, it's just a huge collector's item because they don't make them anymore, like some older cards, but they're still printing it, so that can't be that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's crazy and amazing, and I'm going to continue to follow it, though it probably won't go anywhere.
That brings us to Bad at English. So for Bad at English today, I want to delve into an area of the English languages practiced in the British Isles known as Cockney rhyming slang.
Okay.
Cockney rhyming slang is a fascinating little area of British English that probably has equivalents in the States. I can't think of a real good one right off the top of my head, and I spent a minute trying to. Where in the East End of London, there was this origination of English slang that potentially was utilized to deliberately obscure the meaning of things. And while it's not a uniform thing, the one version of it is that they will take a common two-word phrase where one of the words is the word you're trying to say, and the other word, and then it rhymes with the word you're trying to say, and then what they'll do is remove the non-rhyming word, remove the rhyming word, and all they have left is the non-rhyming word, and use that in place of the original word. So the one I heard in common parlance, even amongst like well-educated British people was have a butches, which means have a look. Let's have a look. Instead of saying let's have a look, they would say let's have a butches. And the phrase, the original phrase is butcher's hook, which rhymes with look. And then you take butcher's hook, which rhymes with look, and remove the word hook, and all you have left is the word butchers.
This sounds like a whole other language. Like, why would anybody do this? This is really complicated.
So there was a few others I heard. For instance, the phrase apples and pears rhymes with stairs, and then they would say the word apples in place of the word stairs. So
how are you supposed to pick that up if you've never heard it before?
I don't know. But I saw some things that actually speculated that there was a lot of criminals on the East End of London, and they were deliberately trying to come up with a language that they could speak openly amongst themselves that would obscure the meaning from, law enforcement officers.
I'm sure that's the romantic version. I'm sure the real version is two kids screwing with their parents.
So another one I heard was like dog and bone, which rhymes with phone, and then you take out the word bone, and all you have left is dog, meaning.
Well, hang on, I got to answer my dog.
Yes, or sometimes they would use people that are famous in the UK, so these ones don't translate at all, and they would explain it to me, and I still wouldn't get it. Like there was someone called Jack Jones, and it rhymed with alone when you say it with a British accent, and then you take out the word Jones, and all you have left is Jack, so you would say on my Jack, which means on my own.
I'm losing a lot of respect for British slang right now.
If you look at a long list of these Cockney rhyming slang, some of them are so obscure, and I never heard them in use. But have a butchers was one I heard a lot. Let's have a butchers.
I want to hear somebody speak in nothing but Cockney rhyming slang to somebody else talking nothing but Cockney rhyming slang, and just see what that would look like. It would probably sound like like a rap battle.
Yeah, you can kind of see it in like the beginning of the musical My Fair Lady, where they have the girl from the East End of London that's like, "Oh, I'm a good girl, I am," and she speaks a lot in Cockney, and she's hard to understand at first, but then she turns into a refined woman. The closest thing I could think of in the English language to this was like baseball metaphors, that even someone who doesn't play or understand baseball might talk about, out in left field or hit a home run or something like that, that if you're not from America, you wouldn't understand at all.
Well, you're just talking about idioms, which are colloquial metaphors, and I think that's completely different than like taking random words and making them mean other random words.
Right, like dog meaning phone or butchers meaning look.
There's a difference in quality here. Something like the difference between like an idiom and like Pig Latin, almost like a completely different language that you have to know the rules for, or else you're just not going to get it. Right.
So the bad at English phrase of the day is have a butches.
All right. Well, before we close bad at English, I have two pieces of feedback for you from basically bad at English in general. The first one is just a general. I'm super impressed at the amount of etymology research that you do for all of your phrases. Like I don't think half this hard about the words that I say. So good on you there.
Thanks.
And the second one was you did make the distinction in this one that I had to point out. Like you were talking about Cockney rhyming slang, and then you mentioned.
Is there an airplane flying over?
I don't know what just happened. Hang on a second. Let me go fix this. Okay, so I'm back. So hopefully they'll die off here in a second. This actually so we'll finish this, and this is actually an excellent transition because I'm recording in my my office, which is a separate room, has its own separate heating and air conditioning unit. But we had guests that stayed here overnight for Thanksgiving for a long week. And so I guess they've been messing with my air conditioning settings. Anyway, you actually pointed out the difference between the Cockney and then you mentioned, what did you say, like highly educated English people?
Yes.
So they always make that distinction in the movies. What is it like? Was it My Fair Lady, like you were talking about?
Yeah. Well, sometimes street slang creeps into common usage.
Okay. Well, but then they almost sound entirely different in their everyday normal use, right? Like the accents themselves, like the words might be the same, but the accents are different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Cockney is real rough, and it sounds like an American person pretending to be British. But you would even hear a well-educated person with a posh accent say something like "Let's have a butches."
I gotcha. So what you're talking about then is the difference between, say, the way we talk, like normal people, and like a thick Texas accent.
Yeah, but then if we were to use something that someone with a thick Texas accent would say in common conversation, like the word y'all.
Oh, y'all going to the park?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just sounds a lot of place. I get that. Okay, I can get behind that.
All right.
Maybe we should expand bad at English to include... Oh, thank goodness. We should expand bad at English to bad at American English at some point.
All right, I'll have to give that one some thought because I haven't done as much research on that.
I was told when I went to college that I have a weird accent, which blew me away because I don't think I have an accent.
Yeah, I've gone through all kinds of stretches in my life, having lived in Oklahoma and Alaska and Idaho and all over the place. But
that's interesting because you have lived all over the place, both in the States and then overseas. Do you ever try to pick up the local accents while you're there?
Yes, it's just a kind. I think anyone does to some extent, just try to blend in. And I remember when I got to Alaska, being very conscious of the fact that people would be like, "You talk funny." I'd be like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I just sound like a kid from Oklahoma."
Well, I think the southern accent's really easy to do if you live in America for any length of time. But I've always been really interested in accents and just the different phonic changes that you have to do to make the sounds.
All right, I have a video clip I'll put up in the show of my daughter practicing her Wiltshire West Country British accent, and she was fantastic. My kids would go to school every day and be British kids all day long, and then come home and turn it off like a switch, just back to American.
I mean, kids can do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I always thought, like, one of my $1 million business ideas, we need to have some kind of like video series that you could buy, not to learn a different language, but just to learn the accent of that language. And this idea came from when I noticed years and years back when Nicole and I were dating, that whenever somebody with a Scottish accent like came on the TV, male, female, attractive, ugly, it didn't matter. Like her ears, you could see her ears perk forward and like get that little silly grin on her face. And it took me a while to realize that she's way into Scottish accents. But now, whenever I try to do it, she just like wants to throw stuff at me because I do it so horribly, apparently.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different Scottish accents I learned. There's kind of a proper one from like Edinburgh, but then there's like a country one, and it's a big difference. I had a coworker I worked with who was an officer in the Royal Air Force who had a proper posh Scottish accent that was really interesting.
I'm going to have to like sit down and pick your brain, and you're going to dump as much Scottish accent into my head as possible because I think that will make my wife more attracted to me.
Well, don't mimic Mike Myers. He is to Scottish accents what Dick Van Dyke was to Cockney.
Oh crap! That's like my only like real reference point.
No, Mike Myers. All right, I want to hear this story that you put in the notes about doctors.
Okay. So I am groaning because, and like Ben is pointing out in our show notes, I just wrote freaking doctors. And what happened was my son needed a flu shot, and I wasn't there. I was at work. But my wife had taken the day off before Thanksgiving to bake some pies and just to get the house ready for the guests that we had.
My kids had doctor's appointment the day before Thanksgiving, too. That must have just been free time in all the doctor's schedules.
Huh. That's a strange coincidence there.
Freaking doctors.
At the same time, you have so many kids, I'm sure one of them's at the doctor all the time. That's just statistics. Anyway. So my son goes to the doctor. He's like, oh, he just needs the flu shot. But you can't just get a flu shot at the doctor because that would be a technician. And if the technician sees the kid and not the doctor, then they can't charge your insurance for the full visit, right?
Right.
So the doctor came in and did his doctor thing, you know, thump on his elbow and like listen to his breathing and all the normal doctor things that they do that I'm sure are very important and don't take up time to just say that he did an examination. But then
I think this deserves the Occam's razor treatment too. Of course, they're trying to make more money from your visit.
I don't want to speak bad about doctors. It's just like any other profession. Like some of them work very, very hard and are very, very dedicated, and other ones just kind of got through med school and are now kind of banking on that.
Right. What do you call the guy who graduated last in his class in medical school?
doctor.
That's what you call him.
Orthopedic surgeon? I don't know, something. Anyway, so one of the things this doctor did as part of his, I guess, normal, I'm doing air quotes, the normal exam, was he checked out my son's undercarriage. Did like a minor hernia check, I guess, what my wife said while he's in the room, and like gave him the whole spiel, like, oh, you don't let anybody do this, and they need to have your permission, and they need to ask first, and if they don't, they need to tell an adult. Okay, well, that's good. I mean, if we're going to mess with his stuff, then let's have a little conversation about this isn't normal, this isn't allowed kind of thing.
Wow.
But then he said something to the effect of, now, you're going to start going through some changes down there, and you can talk to your mommy and daddy about what all that's about with puberty and like all your body and all the things that's going to happen to you. Okay. And I got this in a text message, like coming to me. It's like, oh, by the way, the doctor told your son about puberty. And I'm at work, and I was like, excuse me, what? He's, oh, geez, 8? Yeah, 8. He's 8. Like, I don't, now, maybe, am I completely off my rocker to say, like, I shouldn't have to worry about puberty for another, like, 4 years?
I don't know, Josh. I mean, I've looked at like medical statistics about this, particularly when my daughter started getting old enough to start menstruating, and there is medical reason to believe that these things are happening sooner than they did previously, in a very scientific way.
In one generation, though?
No, not in one generation. It's happened over time. I don't know if it's just like good nutrition or something. I don't know what's causing it, but if you are waiting too long to give girls the talk about puberty and they're 8 years old and get their first period, they think they're dying or something.
Yeah, but I understand that girls have, their first visible and very traumatic signs when they're younger than boys.
Right.
I don't remember having any of these issues, at least in myself, until I was in middle school.
Okay.
Now, to put things into perspective, my son is in the 2nd grade.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so, they don't do the talk in school until like 4th or 5th grade.
We didn't have sex ed in our school, in high school, until I was a freshman. 9th
yeah,
grade.
But I remember something before sex ed that was just like the puberty talk.
Oh, I don't think I had that.
The boys went in one room, the girls went in the other room, and they talked about, and they use all those dumb terms, your body is going to be going through certain changes.
Well, I mean, there's no other real word for changes that a kid's going to understand.
Right. Because up to this point, it's all just been more. Like, I was short, now I'm taller.
Yeah, we need to go back to the good old days when it was just a half-drunk PE teacher. Like, listen, kids, stuff's going to get really weird.
You've seen too many episodes of South Park.
No, I've seen too many half-drunk PE teachers.
Oh, my gosh.
No, but anyway, then my wife later told me, it's like, yeah, I'm glad I asked him what he thought. Like, apparently on the way home, she asked him what he thought puberty was, and he thought it was a disease that he was going to catch.
Oh, no.
And so she kind of talked him off of that ledge. Like, no, it's normal. It happens to everybody. It's nothing to worry about. It doesn't mean you're sick.
Does he kind of have a propensity for, like, hypochondria kind of thing?
I wouldn't say that, but he just didn't know what it was.
Huh.
Like a medical professional, like a guy, like from a kid's perspective, like he doesn't even have a name. He's just the doctor. And like when things are when my parents no longer have control over the situation, they put me in a car and they take me to this building, and there is a man that they look to and talk to with respect, and we have to wait to see him because he's so in demand, and he dispenses this wisdom that my parents then obey blindly. Wow. This is like another level of authority over your parents, and this guy came to me, grabbed my undercarriage and said, "There's going to be some changes," and then walked out of the room.
You gave such a profound backdrop for all of that. That's really interesting that we go through this ritual almost of elevating this other human being, this mysterious Wizard of Oz. We're marching down the yellow brick road to see this guy and waiting in the chamber to get an audience. Well, I remember, and I didn't remember it until you said this, that I had an experience as a kid where I had a hernia check, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna do what now? You want me to take off my underwear? I don't take off my underwear for anybody. And I'm supposed to let this guy handle my junk? I don't think so. And my mom's just like, just let him do it. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, turn your head and cough. And I'm like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, and that falls into that just ridiculous hypocrisy that we have as a society. It's like, now, you sit your kids down, like, listen, this is very important. Nobody is supposed to see you naked, and that's not allowed, and that's not okay. Except for the doctor. He can do it whenever he needs to. He just has to say please, and we're going to let him do whatever he wants to.
Yeah, and then you get that thing like happened to the U.S. women's gymnastic team. Some of those women were sexually abused with their parents in the room.
I don't want to go there. I honestly, I'm not.
Yeah, that's probably far enough.
I'm not educated enough on that topic.
Yeah, I just read about it because I found it really disturbing. And
well, I feel like there's no two sides of that conversation. I feel like there's, that was really screwed up. Yep, that was really screwed up. All right, next topic.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to insinuate anything like that while we're talking about your child. So you had to dispel the notion that he had a disease. Did you give him the full talk?
No, we did not give him the full talk, and because I had a very long talk with my wife about how I'm dead set. Like, this is too early. This is too early. No good can come of this.
Did he ask you more questions?
And he has not. And you know what, Ben? If he had come and asked me more questions, like, hey, the doctor said this, then that would have been the indicator to me that it's stuck in his head and he's thinking about it and it's actually making some cycles. But the fact that he's never brought it up again ever means that, just like everything else in his life, it just went in one ear, out the other, and he's back onto Minecraft or whatever.
Then what made you think he thought he had a disease?
Well, my wife said that he had asked about it in the car ride on the way home, like immediately after.
Huh. Okay.
So it's not in his mind, from my perspective at least. He's not dwelling on it or thinking about it, or it's not bothering him.
Yeah.
And I don't want to burden him with, like we talked about a couple episodes ago, this world-weary information, like stuff that's just going to weigh you down. Like, just enjoy yourself for a little longer, kiddo.
Yeah, and you know what? Having raised 3 sons that have all gone through puberty, I don't recall having actually had any of them come and ask me about this talk.
Oh, and this is in America, we do really bad with this talk in particular. Just like the entire mysticism that we've built around just sexual relationships between 2 consenting adults. I don't know. We just don't do a good job with that. And like I mentioned before, my talk with my kid is going to be much, much more about the emotional connections that 2 people have together versus the strict biomechanics of it. Because the biomechanics are very straightforward, and we should be as ashamed of it as we are as a society.
My favorite quote I've ever heard about this is that every generation likes to think that they invented sex. Did
we not? Like, I feel like I don't know.
That phrase has wisdom built into it.
Well, and this is the classic children-parent thing, where there are some things that you will take from your parents and you just accept, and there are other things that for some reason just never penetrate that shell of they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But
the irony of the fact that you exist because your parents figured it out escapes these kids that think that they're discovering something that the world has never known before.
Listen, my parents may have figured it out, but they have definitely never done the double somersault Dutch. I was going to make up some word, but I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything that's going to keep us PG.
Buddy.
It's not a real thing. It's like, whoa. No, but you know what I'm saying. It's like when your parents did it, Ben. They were barely in the same room as each other.
Oh, but you're exhibiting the thing. Every generation likes to think that they invented it. No, that is not the case. And that's all.
Well,
that's my Forrest Gump point.
Oh, my counter argument to that is it is our generation that came up with and has been using the internet. So I'm willing to lay money down that.
We didn't even invent pornography, and we didn't even invent the internet. There's this scripture I love in 1 Corinthians in the New Testament that says, and the people of, I think it's Corinthians. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes.
It's in the first book of Corinthians, and it's, if I die, clear my browser history.
No, it is. It says, and thus the people did go from place to place with itching ears seeking to hear some new thing.
And it has nothing to do with my browser history.
But it sounds just like browser history. It's just, sharing the latest meme or looking at a social media feed, except it was back in ancient Greece.
Hey, Ezekiel, check out this clay tablet. I've got
Yes!
chiseled some rockin' like bods on this one.
That's it. That's exactly it. We there under the sun. There is nothing new. Well,
can you imagine trying to hide like clay tablets that if you dropped them they would shatter? Say to be like super careful when your mom came in.
we look at their pornography now and we're like, yes, look at this fine art. And that was not why it was created, but
I always hear those things like, oh, back in the ancient times, boobs weren't that big a deal, but wrists and ankles, ooh, buddy, watch out.
Yeah, every generation likes to think they invented sex. So I had my own experience with the medical profession the week before last. A year ago, I went in. I got a call. I put myself on a waiting list to be in a residency program for orthodontia. So as a kid, I had mostly straight teeth, and my parents couldn't afford braces anyway. And there were no functional problems, and so I never got my teeth straightened. I just had a few that were kind of crooked, and it was bugging me, and it was causing problems over time. And so I'd gone into the orthodontist for a consult, and he's like, "Well, you don't require them, so the military's not going to pay for it, but we can put you on a waiting list for our residency program and let the student doctors experiment on you." I'm like, okay.
Oh.
I met all their criteria of going to be there long enough and not going to deploy or anything like that, and they put me on the list. So
listen, we've got this great program where we take some half-trained idiots with power tools and we let them go to town on your jaw.
So I'm about to get to that. So so last December they called me up and I went in for my first appointment, and they're like, all right, let's do this. So what do you want? And they kind of laid out their plan and then brought in the student. My doctor's name was Don Ho.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was Don Ho.
Was this was that on his name tag, or
yes,
was this just some prank they're pulling?
And his first name was Don. And I did not sing Tiny Bubbles to him, but he was really great. And the way this residency program was carried out is that the doctor very much supervises it. And with orthodontia, it's just there was no power tools involved. It's just glue a thing on your teeth and then put a wire through it. And every time it would be glue a thing on my teeth and go get the doctor and have him come look at it and say, yeah, that's it. Go ahead and harden it with the UV light. So there wasn't a lot that could go wrong. What went wrong is when they were putting the rubber bands on and their tool would slip off and they'd stab me in the gums and I'd get a canker sore that would last 3 weeks.
Terrible.
Anyway, fast forward a year. I'm almost at the end of my course of treatment. That resident graduated and became a full-fledged doctor. So Dr. Ho now is a dentist at the same office. And I've got a new one. I can't remember his name. It's not as interesting. And I'm almost to the end of my course of treatment. Everything's straight. Everything's about like I want it to be. And I go in, and there's a brand new student, and the doctor comes in, and he's like, all right, as you can see, we got everything straight here, except if you look at the x-ray, his roots are crooked. And so what we would need to do is we would take off the brackets and put them back on in a different angle and put in these new kinds of wires and everything, and it's going to take another 4 to 6 months.
No, they didn't.
And I was expecting this to take a year, and I was happy with where we got, and my eyes got all big. And then the doctor looks at me and puts on the full-on guilt trip. Like, well, you got all this treatment for free, and we let you in because you're helping our students learn. And if you stop now, then you're taking away a valuable learning opportunity from our students.
Oh, tell me that you told him to shove it. No, just that hesitation. Okay. You're right. This is Ben Rich. Hang on. I'm Ben Rich. I just heard that somebody screwed up, and now I'm gonna have to go through 6 more months of braces. Oh, well, thank you so much for your consideration, doctor. I appreciate everything that you guys have done with me so far, and I wish it could be another year.
Oh, okay. So I had a real crisis moment because he really was plucking my heartstrings here. Like, I did understand that I'd gotten what I'd paid for, $4,000 each for 2 of my kids for free, and that there really was some learning that had to take place. And we had this new student in that really had just not done anything. He changed my rubber bands twice, and that was it. And there was something he wanted to do that would potentially have some continued improvement on my mouth, but for the most part I'm happy with where I'm at. And I sat there for what felt like forever until finally, and not as crudely as you said it, but I told the doctor I wasn't willing to do that.
Oh, very good, Ben. I'm so happy. I am so happy. I must be having a terrible influence on you.
I didn't even have second thoughts about it, and really it just goes to the depth of just the Anyone that's listening that's had braces understands just the omnipresence of the inconvenience of wearing braces. Oh my gosh.
That's I was so hoping, like, at least like compromise with him, like, okay, doc, tell you what, take the wire out, put it back in straight, and then like once the kid gets a good look at it, take them all out.
Yeah. So next month, I think when I go in, they'll take them off, and I'll be done right at my year anniversary, and I couldn't be happier.
And they're gonna give you that, like, you're gonna walk in, they're gonna look at you at the side of their eye, and they're just gonna shake their head, and you're gonna have to deal with that guilt then.
No, I feel pretty assured in this. I am really ready to get these things off.
You know, you did get this stuff for free, and this was a learning opportunity. Yeah, a learning opportunity that you guys screwed up. Go ahead and take all this crap out from my face.
When I got braces, I joined like this secret fraternity. I didn't know people would come up to me and start conversations and be like, "Oh yeah, you have braces too." And it could be anybody from other grown-ups to like 14-year-old kids. And we were part of the braces club. I felt like I had, got my secret handshake.
Well, I will say, when I saw you the first time, after having seen you, like, I met you the first time, you did not have braces, and then known you for upwards of, 15 years or something?
Yeah.
And you never had braces, and then we saw each other at this last tournament, and you had braces, and I immediately thought, what possessed you to do this at this point in your life?
I had second thoughts several times.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to stand up for yourself. Like, I'm seriously proud of you.
Aw,
because
thanks,
like,
man.
I wanted nothing more than to be able to, like, I need to give you like a clicker, and like you click a button, and I'm just gonna burst into the room like Kool-Aid Man style.
Listen here, doctor.
Just, yeah.
My friend doesn't have the guts to say no to you himself, so that's what I'm here for.
Just like a bad comic book where I come into the room, I know the full situation, and just start laying it down.
That would be awesome. Every now and then I'll run into like a 14-year-old kid and he'd be like, "Oh man, yeah, I got braces too." I'm like, "How long you had yours for?" He's like, "Well, this is my 3rd year and they had to break my jaw and I wear headgear every night." And I'm thinking, I don't have anything in common with this kid. I feel so bad for him.
Oh, kid, this was completely elective because I was stunningly handsome the first time.
Oh.
And I just wanted my teeth to catch the light perfectly so they sparkle when I smile.
Yeah, I'm not like getting a bleach or anything. I just want to be freaking straight. I had one on the bottom that was turned 90. Whatever. I'm happy now.
First world problems, man.
Enough about braces. Let's talk about Thanksgiving.
Oh, these guys gave me free braces, and they were not done perfectly correctly.
That's right. First world problems.
Still first world. All right, yes. Let's talk about turkey. All right, so I'm gonna let. I don't know if you know this about me, but Thanksgiving is hands down, by and far, my favorite holiday of the year.
I did not know this about you.
And it has nothing to do with family and giving thanks. It's all about the food.
Okay.
Like, I love Thanksgiving food. Like, when my birthday rolled around in early September, my wife asked me, "Hey, what are you going to have for your birthday dinner?" I said, "I want to have Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm going to make it." And I had turkey legs and mashed potatoes.
You totally
and sweet potatoes
misunderstood the question. She was asking you what she could do for you.
I know, but no, I wanted Thanksgiving dinner. And so I made myself Thanksgiving dinner for my birthday. So then real Thanksgiving comes around, and I remember this transition happened probably 3 or 4 years ago, where my grandmother, the matriarch of the Fleshman family, had that long talk with us at Thanksgiving. Like, this is the last Thanksgiving that I'm going to host. And so she's needed to pass that torch, right? And this is a big moment where families are destroyed in infighting, and people like warlords develop trying to claim territory and people to come to their house for Thanksgiving.
I'm imagining Game of Thrones, and you're sitting there breathlessly while the sword point is floating through the air and pauses on you. Yeah,
imagine the guy sitting on the Game of Thrones sword chair.
The Iron Throne.
Thank you. I should really know that better than I do.
I only know it because of a book I read. I didn't watch it.
Fair enough. So the king sitting on the Iron Throne looks at all his nobles and goes, "This is my last year being king. I'm going to let you all figure it out." And then walks off.
No, she didn't anoint anyone?
Oh, no, she did not pass the torch or nothing. She just said she wasn't doing it anymore and just, like, washed her hands of it. Did that thing that dealers do where they clap and they turn their hands up and down, and then walked out of the room.
So did you resolve it that day, or was it, like, not until next Thanksgiving that people started playing, like, chicken of who was going to invite everyone to their house?
So I resolved this in the only way that I know how to resolve problems like this.
Wait. I want to guess.
Okay.
I can't.
All right, so how do I resolve problems, Ben? You know this. Come on. You can do this.
You take them head on by directly confronting the problem.
That's right. And how much regard do I take for other people's feelings?
You don't care one bit. But I'm failing to understand all of the feelings of the other people involved. Like, were there other people, like, you wanted to have, your solution was to have it at your house, but you knew other people want that too, but you didn't care?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
So there's multiple, like, my grandmother has, my aunts and uncles. She has 2 sons, 2 daughters. So I have, my dad, his brother, and then my 2 aunts. And I have 5 or 6. How many cousins do I have? I have a lot of cousins. And so the family's pretty big. And like when you get it to that level, there's a lot of people showing up at one place, right?
Yeah.
And so what I did was I approached the problem head on with zero regard to other people's feelings. And so next year, close to Thanksgiving time, I said, oh, by the way, I'm going to make Thanksgiving dinner. If you want to come, great. If not, I don't care.
Which also means I'm not coming to yours.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Like, I am making Thanksgiving dinner at my house. End of story.
But you're kind of missing out on all the, like you said, if you love all those side dishes and stuff like that, then you're missing out on the crowd factor.
Oh, you see, and that would be a very important point. If there was side dishes that other people made that I really liked. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but there's also like a limited amount of space in the oven and time to do all of this, and if you increase the labor pool, you also increase the kitchen space, and there's this convergence that happens. My sister and I were talking about this, that as the number of people at a Thanksgiving dinner goes up, the variety of side dishes increases exponentially.
Well, it has to, in order to accommodate just the sheer volume of food that you need to feed all those people, which means you have to outsource, which means you have to deconflict. And so once you have your basics covered, then people have to start reaching deeper into their bag of ideas to come up with side dishes.
I don't know. I found there's enough natural variety in people's preferences for side dishes that you almost don't have to manage it. Like, you don't got to worry that 5 people are going to all bring green bean casserole. Like, somebody really loves it, and they'll bring it, and they have a favorite recipe, and somebody else will bring something else.
So that is all an excellent exploration of the natural thought processes that happen when you have a group of people trying to communally make a large meal. I threw all of that out the window. And so I make everything that I want to eat. It's all my favorites. I do it all myself. Now, I'm not going to say I do it alone. My lovely wife, Nicole, is always there as my number 2 in the kitchen, and I will randomly outsource menial tasks to people.
Alicia hates working with me in the kitchen. She avoids it like the plague.
Well, why is that? What do you do to make her hate you in the kitchen?
We'll explore that some other time.
Fair enough. So when I have people that come up to me, like my aunt will come up to me and be like, oh, Josh, thank you so much for hosting. Is there anything I can do to help? Yes, aunt, who has been alive for 2 decades longer than I have and has had vastly more cooking experience than I do. Peel these potatoes and then shut your mouth.
I will turn you into a sous chef faster.
And you will say, yes, chef, and just do as you're told. No, so anyway, I love my Thanksgiving food, and I take it very seriously.
Okay.
So Nicole took the day before Thanksgiving off. You're talking about the convergence, and there's only so much oven space. Nicole is a baker. Like, she is a phenomenal baker.
That can all be done the day before.
Right. She makes all the kids' birthday cakes and everything, but she's doing all of the pies this year.
Okay.
Pies, plural. Nicole made 5 different types of pie.
Awesome.
I think she made 8 or 9 in total.
Please list them.
I will. She made this Granny Smith apple pie that was, it looked like it should be on the cover of a cookbook. It was so, like, it had
did she do the cross-hatched pie crust on top?
Yes, she did.
Nicole,
she did.
Oh, I love you. Keep going.
It was amazing. She did not a pumpkin pie, but a pumpkin tart.
Okay.
She did a sweet potato pie, which is my personal favorite, and it was slamming. Just 3/4 of it were gone that night. It was so good.
All right, I'm not a fan of that, so I'm gonna have to try hers before I give final judgment on sweet potato pie. Keep going, keep going.
You don't have to like sweet potato pie. That's fine.
No, I have a saying about this, and I'm gonna skip ahead a bit. When my kids say I don't like something, I say to them, "Do you have any idea what this means?" And the answer is
no.
More for me.
That's pretty good. Yes, you don't have to like sweet potato pie. I will eat all of it by myself.
Yes.
Then she made a chocolate pudding pie, and then a butternut squash pie, which is my mother's personal favorite.
Wait, I got to stop you there. I was meaning the chocolate pie, but squash pie can burn in hell. Okay, keep going.
Squash pie can burn. Those are the 5 types of pie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you said there were 8.
No, she made 8 total, 5 different kinds.
I got it.
She made 2
duplicates of the favorites.
Yeah, she did duplicates of ones, and then we had to deliver the extras to the other parallel Thanksgiving that was happening in town. So that's the whole thing. Normally, like I said, I'm doing Thanksgiving. You guys can show up if you want. And so what it has boiled down to be is my grandmother, one of my aunts. I think my other aunt showed up.
This is the grandmother on the Iron Throne?
Yes, the grandmother that stepped down from the Iron Throne would come to my Thanksgiving.
Wow.
My parents, obviously, then my brother and my sister. They would all come to my house for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
But not this year. This year, Nicole's family came in from out of town. So her brother recently moved in to town for a new job. Her sister decided to fly in from Oregon, and her parents drove in from Kansas. And so we hosted the entire Canton clan here in my house.
All the in-laws.
All the in-laws.
And that kept your family away just out of respect for the other side of the family?
That's what it was, yeah. We told them, hey, Nicole's family's coming to town. You guys can still come if you want. But then they very gracefully bowed out. And then it was very entertaining for me, who I guess I'm now sitting on the Iron Throne, watching them all scramble for a year. Like, oh, well, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, when you're visiting from out of town, it's not like you have a kitchen to contribute to the cause.
My brother called me on Thanksgiving Day, Ben, and he said, "Hey, I'm making this turkey. What do I do?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" "Well, it's in a bag." I'm like, "Which bag? Did you put it in a bag?" Like, "No, it's in the bag that I got from the store."
Oh no! What time did he call you?
Oh no, it was defrosted.
Okay.
Yeah, he still had time. It was in the morning.
This sounds like something out of like Friends or something. Like I got this frozen turkey and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. How do I get it on the table by 7?
You can't. Good job. No, but he tells me, like, what do I do? It's like, oh, we'll take it out of the bag. Okay. And then you got to take the neck and all the gizzards out. Like, what? I have to take all the guts out? Like, yeah, they're in a plastic bag in there. He's like, okay, got it. And he hangs up and he calls me 10 minutes later. "There's no bag in this turkey." I said, "Yes, there is." Like, well, no, I got the big neck thing out, but then there's no plastic bag. "Alex, there is a plastic bag full of that turkey's organs inside that turkey somewhere. Do not bake that turkey until you have pulled a plastic bag out of it."
I love it. I can hear you using that exact tone of voice and cadence. Repeat. Anyway, no. Do not cook the turkey with the plastic bag inside. This will be a disaster.
Yeah, I do not care what you think. I am telling you what you will do.
He found it, I'm assuming.
I don't know, Ben. But it was... But I told him, like, on the phone, I was like, "You should take this as a clear indication that you shouldn't do Thanksgiving." And he goes, "I know, this is my wife's fault." And then I heard his wife from the background. She goes, "This isn't my fault. I don't want to make a turkey either. This is Josh's fault."
Oh, because you normally make the turkey that they eat.
Yeah, because I usually make their Thanksgiving dinner.
And before that, Grandma did it.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
So they were left having to do their own Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So Nicole made all these pies. And then my brother had a parallel Thanksgiving that I guess he pulled it off. Maybe there was just enough booze there to level it out probably. I'm not sure. Sure, it was fine. I slow smoked my turkey with applewood for 7 hours.
Do you own a smoker?
I do own a smoker.
What?
My parents gave it to me for Christmas one year, and they said, "This has been in our garage for 15 years. We were cleaning it out. We found this. We figured you could use it." And I do.
Wow.
And it's like not one of those pellet smokers that like you set it and walk away from it. It's one of those old school ones where you got to put charcoal in it and monitor the temperatures all by yourself. And like it takes work. So I mean, I put a lot of work into this turkey.
I've had pretty good success just following the directions on the bag and just sticking it in the oven and cooking it for the right amount of time. But this year I decided to brine my turkey.
Brine? Ooh,
yeah.
That sounds interesting.
I know.
How'd that go?
You just soak it in salt water for a few hours. It was fine. I couldn't tell if it was noticeably juicier, but it didn't make it worse, so I'm calling it a success.
Oh, this was the second year that I've slow smoked my turkey, and like I had a really nice thick smoke ring.
Did that make the white meat turn all like pinkish?
Only for like the first like quarter inch of the meat, and that's where the smoke has seeped in, and it's where all the flavor is, and the rest is still there. and it's very moist the whole time. Like it doesn't ever get dried out.
I need to find an excuse to come to your house for Thanksgiving. I will happily peel potatoes in your kitchen.
That was one of my turkeys that I made. I didn't make a second whole turkey, but I did have. I had 6, but I only had time to make 3 bacon wrapped turkey lollipops as the second meat dish. So what you do is you take turkey drumsticks separately, you skin them, and then you rip out all the bones and the tendons, all that stuff that makes a turkey leg hard to eat.
Yeah.
And you shove all the meat down to the end to like a little sphere, so you have this nice, cool, like caveman bone sticking out the top of it.
Okay.
And then you wrap that in bacon, cover it in seasoning salt, and then you barbecue it. And so I had 3 of those on the side, and those were the best. Like you wrap anything in bacon.
I've never had anything like that, but it sounds pretty good.
Then we did sweet potatoes, which was my mother-in-law's recipe, so she greatly appreciated that. Which is just sweet potatoes, butter, and brown sugar with the marshmallows on top. Mm-hmm. Mashed potatoes, creamy style. That's the way my wife likes it. With you use the heavy cream and the butter, and you blend them all up. The store-bought gravy, because I don't know how to do gravy other than just the little gravy packets.
There's a lot to be said for that. I think it's just it gives a very consistent flavor and texture instead of like the spottiness and potential gelatinousness of homemade gravy.
That's the problem. Like you're supposed to use all of the gooey bits of the turkey and stuff for gravy, and that stuff can separate if you don't cook it correctly. And I think you're right. The consistency is worth it. And then green bean casserole was my other side dish that we made. Yes, and so it was a successful Thanksgiving, and I spent all day in the kitchen cooking, and I ate this wonderful meal. I had 3 slices of pie at the end of it, and I did not lift a finger to wash any one of those dishes.
The grand tradition of Thanksgiving cooks everywhere.
That's right, and I didn't even feel bad about it.
No, nor should you.
No, sure not. While I was preparing throughout the day, I think I ran the dishwasher 3 times. All right, so complete side note here.
Uh-huh.
I had 2 separate families staying in my house for the last 5 days, and I am just flabbergasted at the number of times I ran my dishwasher in that amount of time.
Yeah.
All of the things set aside, that just blew me away. All right, footnote over. Anyway, had a great Thanksgiving. Loved the food. It was great. Yeah.
Well,
tell me.
Did you have a ham? Because you only mentioned turkey.
Did you have ham at your Thanksgiving, Ben?
Yes.
Okay. So, did you have turkey available as well?
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm letting you get all your stories out. I have my own.
Okay. So, just right off the bat, we're good friends. You know I love you to death, but you're doing it wrong.
Have I committed Thanksgiving blasphemy?
It's not just you. It's the whole country. My parents even Christmas, we're going to have ham. And my wife and I just look at them who are these pod people that prefer ham over turkey on major holidays?
So no Thanksgiving blasphemy happens at Josh's Thanksgiving dinner. No ham.
There is no ham to be had, and we don't have ham for Christmas. We don't have ham ever. I don't think we've ever had a ham.
But what's the opportunity cost of ham? I warm mine up in a crock pot. It doesn't take up any oven space. It doesn't take up any counter space. It's just there. It's not costing me anything to have it.
Oh, okay. So the meal that you're going to give me on a day when you're thankful for my presence is something that you threw in the crock pot and forgot about for a while?
And flavored with pineapple, just to add insult to injury.
I'm actually okay with pineapple. But no, the amount of effort that you put in, you always hear those grandmas. It's what's your special ingredient? Oh, my special ingredient is love. BS, your special ingredient is the fact that you made it yourself, and so it's not exactly the same every time you do it. And then every once in a while, my wife is a true artist. She doesn't even look at recipes when she bakes anymore, and she's just throwing crap together. She made some frosting with maple syrup in it that I thought, how is that possibly going to work? And I don't think I'm ever going to have her make a different kind of frosting ever again.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's that that spur of the moment stuff that happens when you're cooking. And it's
I totally agree with you. My sister will not. Okay, so can I give a minute to talk about what happened at our Thanksgiving dinner?
Absolutely, please.
Okay, I just wonder if you're at a good stopping point because I got a minute. So my sister, my next younger sister and me, we're only like 18 months apart in age. A regular listener of this podcast, by the way, so I got to watch myself.
Shout out.
She lives up near Chicago, which is like 4.5 hour drive from here, which is perfect distance to get both families together for Thanksgiving. Her and her husband, who's a psychology professor at the University of Illinois, and their 4 kids, ages 7 to 9, came down. You do the math on that. Came down to our house, and she had already done a great deal of baking. And my sister isn't like an everyday cook, but she is an exacting cook. When she cooks, she does everything perfectly. Like, she doesn't trust her measuring cups, so she has a kitchen scale, and she weighs things according to their density.
Okay, so these are the 2 great schools of thought with cooking. There's the school that this is an art, and it is meant to be an expressive medium. And then this is a science.
Yes.
And we have figured it out. Yes. And this is the optimal path. You
nailed it. And so when you were talking about the secret ingredient being love and it's a little bit different every time, to my sister, that is utter hogwash. To her, there is an ideal scientific form of a food, and she is working to execute that. And so when I'm around and I'm kind of playing fast and loose with the recipes, it kind of stresses her out. So she'd come down from Chicago with like 5 pies already baked, and my sister makes an exquisite apple pie. Perfect crust, 5 varieties of apple inside, just to die for. She made 2 French silk pies, which, like you said, are like chocolate pudding pies, but she doesn't just get out a box of Bill Cosby and mix it up. You know, she's like full on. It's super good chocolatey. She probably uses like baking chocolate, way good. What else did she have? She brought down a pumpkin pie, and it was pie heaven. I made a raspberry pie with fresh raspberries. I made a banana cream pie, and then we bought a couple of pies just because we ran out of time and whatever. So. Then the day before, I baked like a million billion rolls. I think I used like 12 cups of flour of this really nice raised fresh bread recipe, and the whole house smelled like fresh bread and pie, and it was just awesome.
That's glorious.
Yeah, and then I got up, so we brined the turkey the night before, and we made a bunch of weird side dishes that you didn't list. Like, my sister has this favorite recipe called frog eye salad that's made with a chini di pepe pasta and mandarin oranges and pineapple and coconut and cream, and it's all in like this baked sauce, and then you cool it, and it's really good. And then lots of jellos. Like, I make my mandarin orange and vanilla cream orange jello salad, and then we had like a bunch of fruit suspended in blue jello, and we had mashed potatoes, tons of mashed potatoes, and green bean casserole, and no sweet potatoes or squash to be seen for miles around, because those things are forbidden in my house, and those are the things I get to forbid as the cook.
Sweet potatoes? Come on, man.
Oh, man, no sweet potatoes. Anyway, well, my sister hates sweet potatoes, and I don't
apparently
really
you do too.
Either. Yeah, so no sweet
haters, man. Oh,
but like I said, I'm willing to give Nicole sweet potato pie a try. I'd be willing to try that. But
half of our sweet
baked stuff with marshmallows on top. Blah.
I think the sweet potatoes that I make, at least for a side dish, are by weight 50% brown sugar, so I think you'd be fine with them.
And then we had the brine turkey and a ham. So Thanksgiving Day, everything comes together like right at noon. Everything comes out of the oven at the same time. Everything's perfectly ready, and we just have this beautiful, perfect dinner. Everybody loved it and ate it, and went and had a turkey coma nap, and then got up and ate pie for dinner, and it was fantastic. And then what I hadn't realized is that my sister and her husband stayed through Sunday morning, and like I never had to cook again the rest of the week. It was all just Thanksgiving leftovers, and everyone was perfectly content with that. Everyone had a favorite they could go to and eat. But on Saturday night, just as the favorites were starting to wear out and we were down to the like not favorites, like the ham, I decided to try a recipe, and I just Googled the my daughter Googled a recipe for ham and potato soup, and I just rummaged through all the leftovers. I had leftover celery and onion, some garlic, some celery, some carrots, some potatoes, and a whole bunch of the ham. I made up like a chowder type of broth and mixed it all up, and that was my favorite Thanksgiving dish of the whole week, was leftover ham and potato soup. Oh man, it was so good. And it was gone. I made a whole like giant pot of it, and by the time the spoons came to rest, the pot was empty and there were no leftovers.
I very nearly like ended this conversation, like hung up the Skype call when you said my favorite Thanksgiving dish was this ham and potato soup that I made 2 days later.
Oh, you never mentioned cranberries. What's your position on cranberries?
Okay, so personally, I'm not a huge fan of cranberries, but I am glad you brought them up because Nicole, for some reason, we randomly had a bag of frozen cranberries. And so I'm cooking and she's digging through the fridge like, oh, we've got cranberries. I'm going to make cranberry sauce. And like out of nowhere, made the cranberry sauce with frozen cranberries. And it was a big hit. I didn't try it, but everyone loved it. So
great. So there's this dish they call, in England, they call it a Christmas sandwich. And it's just like a couple of pieces of bread and some baked ham and some baked turkey and some stuffing in the sandwich and some cranberries, and that's pretty much a sandwich. And I must have made like 10 of those with the leftover rolls, and oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, like little leftover holiday sliders.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds good. So so you're talking about making meals a couple days later?
Yeah. So
we didn't have enough leftovers. Like we ate like everything, like ravenously.
You don't have any left?
We have some, but okay. It's all side dishes. Like the turkey is like almost completely gone. So I had to we still had to feed all these people that were staying at our house for the following days. And I don't know what happened, but it was 2 days later on Saturday. We were just out in the town, like at the park, and there's a Papa Murphy's right there. I'm like, oh, you know what? Let's just go grab a couple of Papa Murphy's pizzas, make it super easy for dinner, and let the kids play a little bit longer. And so we did that, and we brought home 3 Papa Murphy's pizza. And Ben, I don't know what happened. Like I used all of my cooking skill on Thanksgiving Day, and like the rest of it is just gone. Like apparently it's a depletable resource because
that's it. I've done all my cooking for the year. We're ordering pizza.
No. I had 3 Papa Murphy's pizza. Those are the ones where you get them and you have to bake them at home. Yeah, take and bake. So I had 3 of them, and only 2 fit in the oven at the same time. So I put the first 2 in, and Ben, I burned them.
You ruined it.
No. When I say I burned them, Ben, like I burned them where I opened the oven door and smoke came billowing out.
Your gourmet chef turned into burning the food.
Right? Like, how could this possibly be? And like, I fanned the smoke away. And everybody's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know what's happening." And I pull them out and I put them on the counter.
Charcoal pizzas.
One of them was edible. It was well done, but it was edible. But the other one,
because the other one took one for the team.
Basically, yeah. The other one was like the bottom of it was just char black, and then I had pushed it up against the side of the oven, I guess, and so that part was literally on fire. And so there's this big chunk of like 2 slices that was just completely black. And I took a piece, like I'm trying to salvage the situation. Like there's all these hungry people staring at me. I'm like, oh no, it's perfectly fine. I take a slice of it and I bit down and it like shattered in my mouth.
Oh no.
But then I took the 3rd pizza. I'm like, it's okay. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to get this one right. So I took the 3rd pizza and I throw it in the oven. I close it and then I set the timer. And I realized what I had done wrong is the take and bake, they gave you the range of time. You're supposed to put it in from 12 to 18 minutes. Well, I had set it to 18 minutes. And clearly that was too long for my oven.
What?
So then for this...
What kind of oven do you have? Like, how could... That doesn't seem like... Even though that's 50% longer, it still doesn't seem like you could go from, the range of overcooked to, like, charcoal in that amount of time.
Well, I guess it was still, like, the top looked like pizza. It looked like well-done pizza. It was just the bottom that was charcoal.
Okay.
And then the other pizza, like I said, was just well done. It was still fine. Everybody ate it.
Or they could have leftover turkey.
Oh, they could have it left. I don't think we had any leftover turkey at that point.
Oh,
we had already had lunch or the night before. Anyway, but the 3rd pizza, I throw it in there, and I set it for 12 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make this mistake again. I'm going to 12 minutes, and then I'm going to watch like a hawk. Okay? So, like, 10 minutes goes by, and I just crack the oven to check on it, make sure everything's going okay, and nothing's happening. Like, why is this one, why am I having problems with this one now, too? And I look up, and when the smoke had come billowing out of my oven, I had... just total reaction had turned the oven off.
Oh, no.
And so now, yeah.
Yeah, you had barely warm oven, and the pizza's sitting in there, and it's probably just getting dry but not cooked.
Right. And so then I turned the oven back on, and it was like 275 degrees of the 425 it's supposed to be.
Dude, this sounds like a sitcom where some clueless bachelor can't even cook a freezer pizza.
So I had 3 take and bake pizzas. I burned 2 of them, and I undercooked one.
Yeah, good job. So what did you end up doing instead? You go out for Thanksgiving duck?
No, we shut up, Ben. No, everybody was super nice about it, even though they shouldn't have been. And like I kept telling them, like, you do not have to eat.
They ate the burnt pizza.
They ate the burned and the undercooked pizza. The undercooked pizza wasn't terrible.
That's nice.
But it was super nice of them to put up with that level of nonsense from me. And I think they even acknowledged it's like, no, you did a perfectly slow smoked 7-hour turkey, so we're just going to give you the 15-minute pizza.
Nice. Well,
I was so embarrassed. So embarrassed.
Maybe you broke even on your cook street cred.
Right, like that's the end of it. Like I had this glowing moment on the Iron Throne, and then got complacent, and then burned 3 pizzas.
That's great. So there's one other thing I want to say about this before we move off of Thanksgiving, and that's that as a parent, I've gleefully found what I like to call the food sweet spot. And if you can imagine a Venn diagram, and I'll make one and put it on the show notes.
I love all of your parenting things are so systematic and formal.
So here's the food sweet spot. It's. I think all parents unconsciously arrive at this conclusion, even if they don't make a Venn diagram of it. The Venn diagram is something I like to eat, and the other overlapping circle is things my children will not eat.
Oh.
And where those two circles interact, you have something that you can just have in the house and not have to worry about.
And it's mine.
Right.
This is my wedge.
You don't have to hide it or label it or anything like that. It's just there for you.
I like that. That's good. Now, what's the other circle?
Well, then there's stuff that you don't like that they won't eat, and that's a useless part of the circle. And then there's stuff that you like and they also like, and that's the part of the circle where, you know, you have to guard it and protect it, or eat it now or forever hold your empty stomach. And so my kids, I found a few things that fit into this sweet spot, that, you know, where I make the joke when they tell me that I don't like that, and I said, do you have any idea what this means?
More for me.
More for me. So a few things like that are like pumpkin pie, as most of my kids don't really like. Dark chocolate. Spicy Cheez-Its, I recently found out. My family will eat Cheez-Its like they're going out of style, but if you put a little bit of hot pepper on the outside, nobody will touch them. And that's more for me. So the weird thing is the kids are starting to get on to me, and they're like, well, let me try a piece of that pumpkin pie, Dad. I'm like, no, you don't like this.
this is we tried this a couple years back. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
You don't like it. You don't like it. Back away from the pumpkin pie.
Can I recommend a third circle for your Venn diagram?
Sure.
Stuff that's easy to make. Easy to make. Your kids don't like it, but you like it.
What falls in your overlapping circles?
My overlapping circles. All right. So what do I like that my kids don't like? That's the first thing you have to identify, right?
Right.
This is a tough question, because, like we talked about before, I just make my kids eat whatever I have. Like, there's very few times where we have something and we force our kids to eat it.
It's because they haven't gotten big enough to, one, be like bottomless stomachs, and two, want to feed themselves out of cycle and have the power and ability to do it. But it's coming.
Oh, all right. So I think I thought of something, and this is we don't have Christmas ham in this family because we hate ham. I think I made that perfectly clear.
Yes, very clear.
Anti-ham. But a couple years ago, Nicole started this new tradition, and it wasn't a tradition at the time, but I told her, this is a new tradition. You're doing this every year. And for Christmas, she made a beef Wellington. Okay,
I've had good beef Wellington in the land it's from.
Show off. Name dropper. But so anyway, if for those of us who might not know what beef Wellington is, you get beef tenderloin, like expertly butchered, like they do something, they remove pieces of fat or whatever, a very, very fancy, expensive cut of beef, and you put that on a pastry crust, and then it is surrounded by a mushroom red wine compote, and it's baked, and so it looks like this really nice, flaky, golden brown tart that has deliciously savory mushroom and beef filling.
It's a highfalutin Hot Pocket.
It's a very upper crust British Hot Pocket is what it is. And I think my kids, we sat it down in front of them, and they ate it like, oh yeah, this is fine. And then I looked at Nicole with tears glistening in my eyes, and I told her, I grabbed her hand. I said, Nicole, this is hands down the best thing I have ever eaten in my entire life, and you are going to make this every Christmas for the rest of time.
And how many years ago was that?
2.
Did she make it last year?
She did make it last year.
Awesome.
Yes, and we're going to have it again this year, and I'm looking forward to it.
Do your kids like it?
Not really. They're like it's just every other meat to them.
Yeah. Okay.
So it doesn't fit in that food sweet spot perfectly.
Right. It's not easy to make.
But it's not something that they're going to go to like, oh, we've got this leftover meat. Like, oh, do we have like ramen instead? I will make you all the ramen you want. I'm going to keep this beef Wellington for myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to the point, though, where we'd made enough food that after a while I was kind of like ready to just move on. You know, I'd had enough slices of delicious pie, and I was like, all right, I need my fridge back.
This is why you have to have 2 refrigerators, Ben. Yeah. We have one refrigerator that is the normal fridge, the day-to-day operating fridge, and we have another fridge right now that is packed to the gills with Thanksgiving leftovers and pie.
So we don't do Christmas dinner at our house. And now that Thanksgiving dinner's over, I haven't stepped on the scale, but I have a feeling I may have broken the 200-pound marker. But we'll make that a teaser for next time. We'll talk about what the plan is going forward.
Oh, everybody stay on the edge of their seats, wondering how much Ben weighs now.
Oh, my gosh. So,
well, see, this is why. All right, let me put this out there. So I didn't mention this earlier, but one of our big Thanksgiving traditions is we do the turkey trot every year.
Yeah, 5K in the morning.
I do the 10K.
Sure.
But my rest of my family did the 5K. And like I highly recommend this to anybody that does any amount of running, because then like the rest of the day you just gorge yourself and it's all guilt-free. It's like I already got my 15,000 steps in. I burned 4,000 calories before I even had breakfast. We're good.
Does the 10K burn that many calories?
No, but shut up.
Because you can certainly eat that much on a Thanksgiving.
Listen, Ben, don't take this away from me.
All right.
Like, it's guilt-free. I exercised that
You're
day.
usually the one taking things away from me. You're right. You ran off all of those Thanksgiving calories before you even started.
That's right.
Okay.
So it was a net zero.
All right, complete shift of gears. I want to tell you about a story that happened to me this week because I want to know what you would do in this situation.
Ooh, these are fun.
I'm going to try to do this without getting too deep into the Air Force organizational weeds, but what happened basically is I did something that's kind of big that most people would miss. I stayed at the same Air Force base, but I completely changed jobs. I went from one 4-star command to a completely different 4-star command, and it's called a permanent change of assignment. It changes in terms of paperwork, it's a mountain. In terms of like geography, I just went across the street to a different building.
Yeah, it's like you got a completely different job, new boss, new expectations, like your whole life is upended, except you didn't have to move.
Yes. So along with all of that administrative change, there was also some technical change in that Air Force Transportation Command, you had their own email implementation from Air Mobility Command. And so when I crossed the street, I basically changed email servers and email addresses, which never goes smoothly, and never goes smoothly. And I had this weird anomaly happen that at the time I did not know, and it played out like an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Ooh. So here's what happened.
You're setting these expectations high.
It was eerie. So
I want you to have received emails from your other self.
Yeah, it's like that. So I get up to my new office, and I'm starting to take over from my responsibilities from the person that I'm going to be replacing. He's still there, luckily, and can give me a bit of turnover and training on my new job. And I start getting these emails where I, as the government representative, I'm supposed to do. So I've been able to log into my new account on the new network, and I'm receiving emails from everyone. And so in my brain, I'm thinking everything works smoothly and everything's normal. And I had sent an email back to my old office asking them what was going on with my transfer paperwork, and I sent an email to my old boss asking him to approve my leave paperwork for the Thanksgiving holiday. And over the previous about 48 hours, it had just kind of been email silence in return. And I thought, oh, they're busy, they're not there that day. Maybe the answer is they don't need to answer me because everything's going fine. And in my mind, I was telling myself excuses for why all these emails that I'd sent out weren't getting responses. And very naturally, because normally when emails fail to send, you have feedback that Bill Gates has designed into his application for us, right?
Yeah, there's some kind of weird message you get, like, oh, there was an error, this didn't send. Or,
so you either get like another email in your box that's like a server error that tells you this email failed to send for server errors or whatever. And even if those don't come right away, they usually come within a couple of hours, and then you know that the person you think you communicated with successfully received your communication. And if you get suspicious, you can turn on read receipts and stuff like that. But it's generally a very assured form of communication.
Yeah, email is... How can you screw up email?
Well, or it goes into your outbox. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you think you sent something and you're not getting a response, so you look in your outbox and it's still sitting there and it's waiting for you to like type in your PIN, or it lost connection to the server or whatever, and you can clear it out and then it goes send. Well, the way you know that you sent an email is you go to your sent items folder and there they are, right?
Right.
And so if you didn't receive any of those error messages and it's in your sent items folder, then you think you know what happened. Well, somehow I had slipped into an administrative black hole where I was sending emails. They were going as if they'd gone in my sent items folder, and I wasn't getting any failed delivery notifications, but they were not going.
Okay. Where were they terminating? Like, what was happening?
I haven't fully figured it out yet, but that's not really important to the story. And I did do an investigation to try to figure that out. But there was this period in the middle where I was sending emails and getting all of the signs from my tools that I'd come to know and trust that they were going, and I wasn't receiving responses, and I was telling myself that there was a reason that didn't have anything to do with the fact that they weren't getting my emails.
Yeah, you were telling yourself... Yeah, you were like explaining it away or coming up with excuses for the other party.
Right.
Yeah.
So imagine the first time you saw The Sixth Sense, and Bruce Willis is playing this psychologist who you later come to find out is actually dead. And he's like talking to his wife, and he's talking to his...
spoilers, man.
We spoil everything on this show. If you're a listener to the show and you don't already know that if you hear us say anything about anything, we're going to spoil it.
We need to start retroactively adding the spoilers to the beginning. Okay, in this random episode where we talk about parenting, we spoil The Sixth Sense, we spoil all the Star Wars movies, we spoil Christmas and Thanksgiving.
For like 110 minutes of the 120 minutes of runtime in The Sixth Sense, he thinks he's talking to living people and they don't hear him because he's a ghost. And this was happening in my real life. I thought I was talking to people and they were hearing me, and I was coming up with the explanations for why they weren't talking back to me.
Okay.
I was like Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense. I thought I was email alive, but I was actually email dead. So I'm asking.
Okay, so
here, go ahead.
No, please ask your question.
Okay, so here's my question to you. How long do you think this would last for you? I don't know if you're more pingy than I am, but how long would you be telling yourself that you're still alive when you're actually dead?
So, and that's going to depend entirely on the habit patterns of the people that I'm communicating with. Like, if I email somebody and they usually turn around and get back to me within like an hour or two, then that's going to change my decision making than if I usually get a response from the person within 48 hours or a couple of days.
Sure. I mean? So for the sake of this hypothetical scenario, let's just assume it's routine enough that you can come up with plausible explanations for why they didn't for a little while.
Okay, I think I would let it go for probably 2 days before I started making some phone calls.
Yeah. That's about how long it was.
Okay, so there you go. So what I was laughing at before was this is a very grandiose way of looking at what is a very normal situation. And I just love the spin that you put on it, like the mystery and the intrigue that you're inserting into your life here as the star of your own life about your emails getting some
because all that happened
glitch.
was I clicked send on a few emails that didn't go.
Well, it's like you were talking about earlier. The way that we tell stories is so great because, like, from my end, I'm receiving a conversation of, so I was sending emails, but it turns out they weren't going, and I didn't know that, so it was kind of weird. But from your end, like, Josh, I was Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense for like 2 whole days. Like, you were email
He thinks
glitching.
he was talking to those people, but he wasn't. He was actually dead.
Let's bring it down a couple notches. Your emails didn't get sent.
Oh,
but that's
spoiling my fun.
No, I don't mean to be such a joy kill, but like you can apply the same situation to like text messaging, right?
Yeah.
So this I do all the time, where I'll text my wife and then I won't get a response for like 3 or 4 hours, and like I can't stop it. I know it happens, but the increasing severity of the explanation is always there. It just exponentially increases, right? So if she doesn't respond in the first couple minutes, oh, she's busy. She doesn't respond in a couple hours, oh, she must be in a meeting. She doesn't respond in like 4 or 5 hours, okay, she's probably dead somewhere. I need to call the helicopters and get them looking for like the crash site and figure out what happened.
Wow.
When in reality,
Nicole's communication levels is way different than Alicia and mine.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you guys just got smartphones, so have you started texting yet? It's this
texting.
cool app. It's this cool app on your phone where you can like use you can type words and they send, and it's asynchronous, so they sit and wait for the other person.
Are you done?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I know that you and her. I've been around you when you're texting her. She's very what's the word I'm looking for?
Responsive.
Responsive. That's the word. She's very responsive.
Glad I can help.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I get it. I sent some emails and they didn't go through. But with text, I don't know what it is on Android, but on iPhone, if you text a message, it gives you like 3 levels of feedback. That 1 that it sent, 2 that it got received, and 3 that they read it.
So that kind of happens. I think I've seen that in like Facebook Messenger does that.
Uh-huh.
I used to use that for texting like people that I was playing games with before.
Yeah, like next to your message, it puts a little open circle, and then it puts a check mark, and then it puts a face icon. Okay,
yeah, and you can kind of tell like what stage the message is in and where people are. But Android doesn't do any of that.
Huh.
So Android, it's very email-like, where it's just you sent the message into the void, and there's no feedback, and you just kind of drum your hands waiting to see if any responses come.
But if you got all the signs that it had been sent as if it had been sent, and yet it hadn't, how long would you go without? That was my boring story that I tried to make too exciting.
Now, you see, I feel really bad now because I feel like I spoiled your fun.
You're right. It was just a boring story. The thing was that I had this moment that felt like the twist at the end of an M. Night Shyamalan movie where I was like, I thought those people were ignoring me, and they actually weren't. And then I had to go back through my sent items and look at all the stuff I'd sent during those 2 days when I was in Limbo and go, oh, I better resend this one, or oh, I never should have sent that in the first place. And it was about 50-50.
So... all right, so I don't want to be the buzzkill here, Ben. I really don't. But this is a great illustration of how everybody is the star of their own life. Yeah, like you're talking about. Go
ahead. Go whole hog on it, because I think this is a good time to talk about this.
So this is just an example of a normal, everyday thing that happens in modern society with any form of electronic digital communication. But because you're the star of your own life and because it happened to you, it was this big, cool event. And it was probably the most interesting thing that happened outside of your normal, everyday working stuff for those couple of days. And it was outside the norm, and it was unusual. And so it's natural for you to spin it into something that maybe from the outside perspective is a little more than you think it was.
Because I'm the star of my own life.
Because listen, this is exactly the same way where I'm describing myself sitting on the Iron Throne, doling out justice when really I'm the one that volunteered to make the turkey.
You're like, no, I'm not going over to your house for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, this is the same thing. Like this is how we see ourselves in our own lives, right?
Yeah.
So and that's all. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a cute little story. It makes me wonder whatever happened to... I thought the Air Force was doing the universal email addresses that would follow you around. What happened to that?
They are. That's a different topic for a different time.
Oh, that's that sentiment right there. Your tone is so loaded with disappointment and angst. Like I want to talk about it.
I do. I'll put that in the notes for us to talk about because it's a worthy topic to explore, and I don't think I can give it time right now to the justice it deserves.
Listeners, you need to stay tuned because we are going to have an episode where we talk about the minutia of email addressing schemes, and it is going to knock your socks off.
All right. Well, let me give this conversation a heart. Here's the heart to look for: the failure of large lumbering organizations to act nimbly.
Oh, you mean the fat guy can't sprint and do the things that he needs to? Yeah.
Or old
I get
people
that.
to adopt new technologies. Pick your explanation, but yes.
That is a very broad topic to discuss at some point. Yes.
Yeah. Now, we'd written down that we want to talk about The Mandalorian. I recently started watching it, went through all 4 episodes that have come out since then. I think there'll be 1 or 2 more episodes out before we talk again. Let's save it till next time.
Oh, I don't really have anything to talk about. Like, we're not. I don't expect us to delve into the meanings.
I could probably spend 10 to 20 minutes on it.
We probably could. Like if we started digging into meanings, I'm sure we could pull something out. I just wanted to gush about how awesome that show is and how finally, Disney is doing Star Wars right.
Yeah,
like,
I would love to be your foil for that conversation. So let's save that till next time.
Ooh, okay. I can see us being on different sides of this, and that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, we'll save The Mandalorian and maybe Disney and Star Wars as a later topic.
Now, I want to talk to our listeners for a second. Listeners, thank you for continuing to stay with us through 8 episodes of Bad at Magic. Back on episode 1, when Josh and I were just giving this thing a try, we weren't sure what was going to become of it, but there appear to be people out there that are enjoying it, and we enjoy doing it, so thank you for joining us. Please, if you're enjoying the show, share it with your friends. Like us on Facebook, rate us on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Go to the subreddit if you want to join in on the discussion. And we're glad to hear your side of what you got to say, and thank you for being listeners to the show.
Yeah, my brother complains constantly that he doesn't like podcasts because he doesn't feel like he's like providing any feedback, or it's a conversation between 2 people and he's not involved. I challenged him, if he wants to be involved, he can get on the Reddit, he can get on the Facebook. You know, like, if we get interesting comments, we'll be all over talking about that stuff. If for nothing else, just to make fun of the people making the comments.
And on that note, we'll talk to you guys next time. Listen in for us to follow through on The Mandalorian and how Disney is or isn't ruining Star Wars.